Hey everybody, long time no loom. I thought it's time to share some of the progress and taking the chance to share also some knowledge about the Git internals. But let's start with the problem description first. As you may know, we are already working on this lazy fetching. And so what is lazy fetching in a nutshell? We don't download the whole repository from Git, but we fetch objects you need for operation on those objects, and you only fetch the objects you need for certain operations. So that means we don't want to download the whole repo, but only the files we want to operate on, and everything beyond that is needed to commit, for example. But how do we achieve that? Have you ever noticed that a pull in Git is extremely fast compared to a full repo clone? So why is that, and how can Git do that? Let's look quickly on one of those nice articles that visualize that. What you do is you tell Git, I want the latest commit, and you also tell Git, hey, I have already commit XY. So if you look at this graph, that's Git history chain here, and you have one commit, and the remote repository is 3 commits ahead of you, and you only have this commit. But the difference now is, compared to full clone, we don't need all of this. We only need those 3 commits and the changes done in those 3 commits. And you do this by sending Git, I have commit, a specific commit hash, and the server will respond with the commits that you need, or the data you need to compile the state on your local client. Commits, okay, great, that sounds good, but we want to have files, not commit. The thing is, and let's dive a little bit further into the Git internals, Git has different kinds of objects. You can read further about that. It has blob objects. That's basically the files or the file content. Tree objects, this is the structure, the folder. You can think of it as a folder structure. So a tree can contain other trees. So a folder can contain other folders, and it can contain blobs, so files. It's basically a folder with folders or files. Cool. Beyond that, there is also the commit, which is saying, okay, hey, I have this particular state of the repository, and this refers to one tree, and this tree then again points to other trees, and finally to blobs, the files. It also has parents, so where did this commit come from, what was the commit before me, and so on. So that in a nutshell sounds all great. The thing is, all of those are just objects, and they all have an object ID. This is the hash of the content of that object. And what we do with the lazy fetching is, instead of sending a commit that we want, we send the hash of the file that we are interested in. And that's pretty cool. It works, as you know. We have a running prototype, and we are looking forward to merge the final version rather soon. But it was some way to go there, because the protocol that is used to send what you have and what you get back is highly optimized. So one step back here, objects are stored. So the objects that we are talking about here, for example, commits and trees and blobs, are all stored, you know this maybe, underneath the Git folder. So if you take an existing repository like this one, you will realize that you have those objects, and then you have a bunch of folders. Each folder contains blobs. Those are the hashes combined from the parent folder and the file name of that blob. This is how loose objects are stored in Git. And so each of them contains a tree or a blob or a commit, and so on. But if you do a fresh clone, this folder is actually empty. And so the objects folder, sorry, it's not empty, it's containing a pack folder. And the pack folder contains, again, something with a hash and .idx extension and a pack. So where are those loose objects? Where are those objects? Those objects are inside of those pack files. And you see here it's 158 megabytes for a fresh clone of our monorepo. And what Git does on a checkout, it unpacks this pack file. So it takes all the content in it, and it takes all the blobs out of it, it takes all the trees out of it, and puts them onto the disk. It turns out that this is also the same that is sent directly from the Git server. So if you send a fetch request, for example, what it internally does, it basically checks what you have in common, packs all the objects that you need to compile on your client side the corresponding state, and sends a pack file to you in one response. And this pack file is a compressed version of a compressed version of all those objects. That's cool because it doesn't take too much of a bandwidth. It's very lightweight and all good. The problem that comes with this is that you cannot really debug this. So if you look at a response object of such a request, so I just loaded Think within sample repository, and this is the first pull of that repository. If you take a look at the response, you see a lot of binary data, and you cannot really make sense out of that. And when we are trying to optimize this step to get the data from the network with the least objects we need, it turns out it's pretty hard to understand what's in there, and you try to get deeper. The thing that we now achieved was unpacking this on the fly in memory. So let me step forward. And if you, this is the same, this is just in a pack file that is inflated with all the objects information coming from inside of that pack. And packed into a nice format. So what you see inside of that pack response is that you have a lot of objects for that example repository. Some of them are blobs, some of them are commits, and some of them are trees. And I also added a isolated nodes entry, and you can see there's two entries in here. That's one is the root tree object, and one is the commit. Let's have a look how the root tree looks like. The root tree is of type of tree. It has children's, so you see it has some blobs, which correspondingly are files with file names. And you also have other folders sitting inside of it, another tree. And you can now go through those and see what's inside of that. So this is live on and response that we get from the object, from the Git server. So we can now see what is actually inside of the pack files that we get from Git. This is a full clone, so it contains everything. Back to what we tried to solve with lazy fetching. We can tell now the Git API, hey, please give us only a specific blob. And then you would not see any commit, not any trees. You would only see one blob containing that particular file that you're interested of. So let's look into this, and you can actually see the content of such a file. Let's have a look. Yeah, this seems to be an HTML file with doctype and HTML and so on and so forth. I hope this was informative. Yeah, just want to share this briefly. Bye for now.